Well, hi, folks. This is Jim Peacock with another Peak Careers interview. This is my typical December topic of books and the benefits of reading. And today I've got a couple of other book lovers out there. I have Margie Cherry. She's a happy career professional for over 20 years. We'll learn more about that in a minute. But Elizabeth Craig, my Minnesota buddy. He's a master career change and job landing specialist and founder of CEO of ELC. And David Lee is the founder of Human Nature and a career coach at Hard at Work. Today, we're going to ask, what's the best book you read in 2021? And then maybe if you have any other favorite recreational ones. And then we're going to try to talk a little bit about what are the benefits that we all see for reading as a career coach. So Margie and I, we had to figure this out, and we think we did, but we believe we met at the Mid-Atlantic Career Counseling Association a number of years ago, and we follow each other on social media for years now. She's currently the Associate Director of Alumni Career Services at Lafayette College, and I did not know this, but she's the speaker and also former long-running cartoonist and a short-lived stand-up comic. So that might actually be another interview, Margie, I'm thinking. But Elizabeth and we met at NCDA when they were in Boston, and I think you said it was 2010, I think you said, and I'm no good at remember the years, but I went to one of her sessions on starting her own business. And I was in the front row asking a ton of questions because that was really when I was moving to full-time with Peak Careers. And then David and I, our connection is, we were both at Hard at Work Associates. We did some outplacement together, and he continues to work there, and I've moved on. But so today you can read their full bios, folks. They'll be on the website and the YouTube channel. But welcome, everybody. This is great. I'm looking forward to talking about books. So let's start off with we're going to start off with Margie leading this one as a career coach. What's the best book that you read in 2021?
All right, Jim. Well, it's going to be really hard for me to pick one because I am a grazer at the buffet of books. So it's really tough for me to pick one. But I think, what was this term you used that I reacted to on LinkedIn recently about stumbling on books?
Serendipity.
Serendipity. In the old days, when you could go to a brick and mortar bookstore, I would just like to sort of wander through the racks and find, in the business section, in the psychology section, in the creativity section, I would just love to find books wherever I could and pull them out. And they would always have, whatever I picked at random would always end up having something to do with something I was interested in or somehow connected to career in some way. That being said, the best book I read in 2021 was Designing Your Life. You probably can't even see it, but Designing Your Life. This is the Stanford team, Bill Burnett and Dave Evans. And you're probably, if you're a career professional, you're probably, somewhat familiar with them, or at least you've heard the concept. I love it. To me, it's about design thinking mindset. So I love books about mindset. So, so much of the time we talk about the mechanics of career, job search, but the books about mindset really get to the heart of the why, not just the how. So this was actually, this one was my all-time favorite this year. I'm still working my way through it. It's something that I like to pick up and put down and sort of think about in between, and that really works for me. Now, it actually reminded me a lot about a book that I read many years ago called How to Think Like Leonardo da Vinci. And again, I'm on Blur, so you can't see these books, which is really ridiculous. I'm going to take myself off Blur here.
No, that's the trouble with those backgrounds. Yeah.
Right. So
there you go.
Yeah, there you go. So now you can see How to Think Like Leonardo da Vinci. And that's also a lot about mindset and, curiosity, thinking beyond layers and sort of aha moments. And there were elements of that in this book. And I thought that really resonated with me.
David, we read that book in the book club, right?
That's right. That's right. And I just picked up Thinking Like Leonardo da Vinci again just a couple of weeks ago. That is such a great book.
Now look at the serendipity of that.
Yeah.
Another one that I've been grazing through is Think Again by Adam Grant. I love Adam Grant. You probably follow Adam Grant on LinkedIn too, because he's really terrific. But I love this because it's about challenging our biases and challenging our assumptions. And so much of that goes into, I think, really relates to career search and career exploration. A lot of those biases, and just for us as counselors, the way we think and what we bring to the table as we're meeting with a client, there's all kinds of assumptions and biases. And this is really a great book on how to challenge yourself and examine that thinking. Another one that I've been grazing
So
through.
this was your favorite book. So favorite book.
Told you I couldn't do one. So we'll go for Designing Your Life. How's that?
All right, so what's the last one? Just show us the last one that you really wanted to show us, whatever that one was.
Oh, this was Recalculating by Lindsay Pollock. Yes.
Oh,
yes.
Lindsay Pollock. Awesome.
Yeah.
So,
And this sort of, I think all of us as career counselors, everything that we know she's got, but she says it in a beautiful and eloquent way.
she does. What was the other one she did about her backpack? Her backpack was a college.
A backpack to briefcase, was that it?
Yeah, that was a great. So FYI, I am gonna ask all of you to send me your book titles and the authors, and I'll put that in the notes. And so people are, somebody's going, oh, what was that book on? We're gonna write it down. All right, let's move on to Elizabeth. Your favorite book. I guess the question is favorite books, but we'll start with a favorite book. You're on mute first. Yeah, that's the fake out. There you go.
The fake out, yes. Well, as a career coach, the benefits of reading are certainly many in helping those that we serve. So it is the reason that I chose to revisit my friend and longtime mentor, Dr. John C. Maxwell's New York Times bestselling book, The 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth. Live them and reach your potential. It's what we want, certainly for all of the professionals that we serve as career counselors, coaches, and consultants. And John Maxwell has definitely been passionate about personal and professional growth for over 50 years. So he put it all in his book, this 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth. And I want to share with you just the first 4 laws of his 15 laws of growth. So we know that critical skills are important. And his very first law is the law of intentionality, that growth doesn't just happen. Life is now in session. Are you present? And he just is a master of choosing quotes like that run throughout his books. In it as well, he will quote others, but here are 2 more from this first law of intentionality. Outside of my faith, the decision to grow has impacted my life more than any other. So his decision to grow. And then he has the law of diminishing intent. The longer you wait to do something you should do now, the greater the odds that you will never actually do it. And just do it. We hear almost every day, sigh, sigh, sigh. I just can't get myself motivated to whatever it might be. And we have news for you. Motivation is not going to strike you like lightning. And motivation is not something that someone else can bestow or force on you. The whole idea of motivation is a trap. Forget motivation, just do it. And then on to his second law, the law of awareness. And this one is so appropriate to all of us who have so many books. You must know yourself to grow yourself. To grow, you must know yourself, your strengths and weaknesses, your interests and opportunities. You must be able to gauge not only where you've been, but also where you are now. Otherwise, you cannot set a course for where you want to go. And of course, every time you want to learn something, you must be able to take the new thing you've learned today and build upon what you learned yesterday to keep growing. That's the only way to gain traction and keep improving yourself. And you have to know who you are to grow your potential, but you have to grow in order to know who you are.
Hmm.
Certainly a featured part there. Then there are two great days in a person's life: the day you were born and the day you discover why.
Hmm.
And on from there to the next. The law of the mirror. You must see value in yourself to add value to yourself. Personal development is the belief that you are worth the effort, time, and energy needed to develop yourself. And Dennis Waitley gave that quote. He said he often asks people often asks himself what keeps people from being successful, and he believes all people have the seeds of success within them. All they need to do is cultivate those seeds, water them, feed them, and they will begin to grow. That is why he has spent his life trying to add value to people. I love to see people blossom. So why do many people fail to grow and reach their potential? I've concluded that one of the main reasons is low self-esteem. Many people don't believe in themselves. And then on to the fourth law, which is the law of reflection. Learning to pause allows growth to catch up with you. Follow effective action with quiet reflection. From the quiet reflection will come even more effective action. And that's a quote by Peter Drucker. And as he talks more about this pausing, the power of pausing, he remembers an old slogan once used by Coca-Cola. They called Coke the pause that refreshes. That's what reflection is to someone who desires to grow. Learning to pause allows growth to catch up with you. That's the law of reflection. Reflection turns experience into insight. And for over 2,000 years, people have been saying that experience is the best teacher. According to one expert, the earliest recorded version of this saying coming from a Roman emperor. Instead, reflection, everyone needs a time and a place to pause, and reflection allows those experiences to move from life markers to life makers. So I thought I'd share those first top four with you.
Those are great. I mean, and the wonderful thing about books is that sometimes they're not like brand new ideas, but they're great new ways of reflecting on it, right? The reflection in the mirror, looking back. And I think that's really where there's, the power of story. My buddy David here is going to talk on, he talks about story all the time, and the power of telling a story or a metaphor, right? I mean, there's a lot of folks who talking about metaphors, and that's really where you can begin to make some of those connections. So, all right, David, what's your favorite career book this year?
You got it. So this will look familiar, Jim, from our book club, Switchers. Yeah, man, that is awesome. So the three things that stand out for me, why I just love it, and also just love it as a kind of a prototype for a great book, is it's great in terms of the strategic view, like having a really solid, interesting framework. Number one. Number two, tells great stories, so makes her ideas come alive. And three, really, I love how, so by Dawn Graham, how she drills down into like specific verbiage for like describing your value proposition, your personal brand, etc. And just to just do real briefly to give viewers an idea of what's inside. So she has 4 parts. Choose your switch. So exercises and narrative around getting more clear on what you're interested in, where you want to go. Clarify your plan A. And she's a big proponent of not having a plan B. Remember in our book club, Jim, we talked about that.
Mm-hmm.
Part 3, craft your brand value proposition, which I think was just fantastic and a great addition to like some of the other stuff that you would read online. Create ambassadors. So how do you help other people help you, connect you with opportunities? So that's obviously we're being clear yourself, and then keep the ball in your court. So there's some mindset stuff, Margie, and then just some other sort of personal growth sort of aspects. So Switchers by Don Graham, and a close second for me was U-Turn, Y-O-U-Turn by Ashley Stahl. And one of the things I especially love it is she integrates her story, her career change story, and she's also a millennial. So I think especially for people working with millennials, that's a great read to give to them. So that's my number one and my close second.
Hell, there you go. And so definitely we're going to share those in the notes. So this was you guys both, Margie and David, took my two books, designing your work life, and Switchers were my two.
Sorry about that.
But this
Great minds think alike.
So this came out by a friend of mine just recently, Karen Lissinger, Help Wanted, A to Z, Coping with Ups and Downs. But this is what I love about this book is she goes through the alphabet more than A to Z, but she has a quote. Then like this one's about identity. She talks a little bit about it, and then she has an affirmation. I value and express who I am in many ways. And so she takes a quote, talks about a different topic, and then has an affirmation. So it's a positive, and every page is set up. Every single page is set up that way. This was a book that I just think for my Eeyores, my clients who are Eeyores, right? The negative nannies and the Eeyores of the world. This would be a great book for those folks to be able to just sort of pick up and go. I could just see myself just picking it up and flipping through it. I had it sitting here, and my wife actually said the other day, she goes, "Yeah, I read it." I'm like, "What?" She goes, "Yeah, I would sit in the chair. We have this chair back here, and she would sit. She just sort of picked it up, and she actually went through the whole book, and it is that kind of book." So, anyways, before I ask about recreational, I'm going to switch the order. I know I did. I'm going to make a game time decision. I'm going to go to our third question, which is, what do you see as the benefits of reading as a career coach? Before I go to recreational, and so I want to kind of talk just briefly, because we got our heads into these career books. What are sort of the advantage of that? And we'll start with Elizabeth on this one.
Well, certainly, as a career coach, counselor, consultant, practitioner, the benefits of reading are many. And I think those of us who are career coaches, that we own tons of books. And at any moment, in fact, I have a clear glass octagonal table that is made entirely below it. What's supporting it are literally hundreds of books. And so everyone who comes into my house, they immediately, and into my office too, they see all the shelves and books and books and books. And I really think that it's immensely important, because the more you read, the more that you know about what's going on in the world and what's happening. And the books that the other people here have shared as well, are ones that I've read too. And we just gain so much from learning from our colleagues. When I shared about, John Maxwell, his books have been out there for years. And every time I pick one of them up, I just learn so much more from them. So the skills that are required, in today's work environment are covered. I believe that reading, is the place to start. It builds confidence, because when you read of other stories, then our clients can know that they can achieve as well. It helps define their value proposition, what they have to offer. It helps the people we work with continue to make informed decisions about the evolution of their own career. It helps them set goals, build a roadmap to their destination, from their beginning points to from there. And most importantly, it builds connections. And I think the word for the year needs to be confidence, because people really do need confidence as they're moving forward. And I see that as really important. So thanks for asking, Jim.
Interesting. David, what are some thoughts on the benefits for career coaches, career service providers?
Yeah, first off, I want to play off what Elizabeth, you just said about connections. And this is one of the reasons why, and my sense is all of us here are really eclectic readers. And, you know, as I know you all know, some of the biggest breakthroughs, whether it's in business or the science fields, come from outside the field. So being that really voracious, eclectic reader, like you can connect something, like for me, like I geek out on like neuroscience research. So something in there, and then something about, so Margie, about copywriting, you had talked about that but before we started, like, ooh, there's a connection there. And that's something really cool I can share with my clients about how to be more fascinating in an interview, you know, for instance. So being a voracious reader helps us make really interesting, unique connections that if we're very one-dimensional, we're not able to make. I think the two other things that relate to it are back to being more fascinating. Like you think about the cool stuff you share with clients because you're a big-time reader. It makes your work and what you have to say way more interesting than if you're just very, you know, one-dimensional. And then the third piece that's related to it is just having that like multidisciplinary perspective. By being a voracious reader, you see things and have perspectives that somebody who isn't able to have. So that's my plug for being a big time reader.
Margie.
All of the above. Absolutely. I don't know what more I can add, except that for me, reading, to build on both what David and Elizabeth were saying, doing this kind of reading encourages divergent thinking. Every time you read a new book, you have a new direction, a new thought. It's almost like being in a room and you're living in that room all the time, but there's windows on all sides. And every time you read a book, you're looking at a different window, looking at a different side, and seeing this, the landscape may not change that much, but your viewpoint changes. Each book you read brings a different perspective. And I think that's both important for us as career counselors to widen our perspectives. And, much like Adam Grant talks about, challenging our own biases. We all come to, our methodologies in this, in a specific way that's specific to us. But each book you read gives you that slightly different viewpoint that you can either accept or challenge. But even in the challenging of it, you're growing and you're learning, and you're again bringing these little neural branches, branching off and adding a new landscape to your perspective. So many of the books I read, as I mentioned earlier, but end up building off of each other, even unintentionally. Excuse me. So I read books like Twyla Tharp's book on creativity, and that reflects on how I interact with my clients. There's things from all different dimensions, sorry, all different disciplines, and they all manage to come together. And it's that divergent thinking initially that we make convergent. The same thing goes for comedy. In order to be funny, you have to take a little bit from this and a little bit of that and build connections between them. And as we read, we're building connections between all the different frameworks, methodologies, points of view, and mindsets. And it's what makes the world worth living, is hearing all the different perspectives.
Yeah, Margie, when your first book that you were introducing, I actually wrote down, because I knew I wanted to ask this question about the benefits, was the mindset change that's buried in a lot of these books. It's so much of what we do as career coaches is help people change their mindset, right? I mean, I've applied to 100 jobs last night, 100 jobs last night. Yeah, how come I'm not getting a job, right? We're helping them change their mindset, right? That's really much of what we do. But the books allow us to have that different mindset change, and some of these authors, as we've said, like Lindsay Pollocks, who can express some of these ideas that I have in very concise, clear ways. And then some of them aren't just my my view that they did a better job with their challenging me to kind of go, well, wait a minute, there's maybe this is not always the right way to go here, right, Jim? And it's a great kind of way to challenge that thinking, you know. And the other thing is, I think that comes out in reading is sort of there's sort of a level of compassion too that gets developed, and I don't. That's kind of just to understand that I'm not alone in this, right? And understand that David's perspective of this, you know, there's some, you know, David's talked about, I've seen him do some presentations on resilience and on storytelling, and it kind of go, all right, so what does that mean to me? Not just to me and my work, but just to me, right? I mean, it's all those challenges that people provide us when we're reading. And so a lot of benefits here for sure. Let's do a quick recreational. What are people thinking? What about favorites for recreational? And I think I'm going to go David first on this one.
Yeah, so these qualify for recreational for me, but also because I just so want the audience to check these out because they're so helpful. So Super Better by Jane McGonigal. So Jane is the twin sister of Kelly McGonigal, who's you might know her from the positive psychology field. Jane is a rock star in the video game field. And I've been working in the resilience field for 30 plus years, and there's some research and then practice based on the research in this that to me is like the most powerful, actionable practice for boosting mood and boosting resilience. Can't overstate how awesome this is. And if you're like, man, that's too thick of a book, she's got a Google Talk, 60-minute Google Talk, obviously TED Talk. The other one that I just picked up again, and it's one of those books I've read multiple times over the years, is The Right Questions by Debbie Ford. Yes, okay, yeah. And so, for example, will this choice propel me toward an inspiring future, or will it keep me stuck in the past? Am I standing in my power, or am I trying to please another, et cetera, et cetera? So just great for ourselves and also for our clients. So those are just two of my all-time favorites.
Awesome. Elizabeth, any recreational books?
This recreational book, this is Sheryl Sandberg's Lean In, and it just has so much wealth of usefulness to it. And she talks a lot about women in the workplace and basically about her background as well and what took place in her life. And I find that it was the one that I chose. So, awesome. Yeah, Lean In, Women, Work, and the Will to Lead by Sheryl, Sheryl Sandberg.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks.
Yeah, it's just awesome.
Margie, what about recreational for you?
All right, just much like David, recreation for me is often reading in my in my career piece, on my career hat. One that I think a lot of people don't know about that's been really transformational for me and for my clients is Your Genius at Work? 4 Key Questions to Ask Before Your Next Career Move by Dick Richards. And it gets a little woo-woo, but it's good woo-woo. And it takes people through the process of naming their genius. And there's something really, really revolutionary in naming, putting a name to your genius. And I think it really helps people kind of focus in on the gifts they have to bring the world. And the other one is Life Launch by Frederick Hudson. But just for fun, Tales of a Female Nomad. And it kind of reminds me, Elizabeth, of Sheryl Sandberg, Leaning In. Here's a woman who leaned in 30 years ago. She left her comfortable life in California when she got divorced, and she was very timid, but she ended up moving around the world, living on less than $10,000 a year, living in indigenous villages, getting to know the people, and every year writing a children's book about her experiences.
Wow.
And just led an extraordinary, extraordinary life. And she calls herself a female nomad. She has truly leaned in.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome. So my big recreation book, I've just discovered a new main author, this Paul Doiron. I don't know how to say his Doiron. I'm not sure how to say his name, but his first book was The Poacher's Son, and it's basically the main character is a Maine game warden, and it turned out his dad was a poacher. That was the first book. And it was his first book was a big hit. And actually, I'm reading one of his other books. I'm not reading them in order, and I'm not sure you have to, but I'm actually reading one of his other books, The Bad Little Falls, and really enjoying it because there's a lot of places in Maine that I know, and I love the outdoors, but the game warden thing, and he's always getting into some kind of trouble. So I need an escapism book every once, so I'm like, I've even read a whole bunch of Clive Cussler's, which are like all the James Bond of the book world, but I just sort of need that escape sometimes. But listen, any final thoughts here? You guys are all going to share your books. Any book that you mentioned, I want you to shoot me an email and I'll put them in the notes. But any final thoughts before we move on? This was a wonderful get together here, talking about one of my favorite topics. So anyways, thank you all for coming. But I'm Jim Peacock with Peak Careers Consulting. I started my business really with the Facilitating Career Development class, added these online discussion-based seminars, they're 5 weeks long, and they're with a cohort of people. So they're different than other online. They're totally online, asynchronous, but they're discussion based. So there's sort of this other element of learning and sharing that happens in these seminars. So they are not independent studies. They're really a cohort of people. I love workshops and can't wait to get back to live workshops here. I do individual coaching. I'm also the author of a field guide for career practitioners. And then last year I wrote a book, which is really not a career book at all. It's really about a year I took off traveling and a near-death experience I had. Anyways, that was a fun book to finally get down on paper. I do write a weekly career email and share with people. And if you'd like to get on that list and get the top 10 tips of working with an undecided person, you can go to my website and sign up. And you can connect with me on any of these social media platforms. It's pretty much LinkedIn is really my go-to, but I have a presence on all these. So listen, I just wanted to say thank you all for talking about one of my favorite topics. Appreciate you guys carving some time out today and sharing some of your books. So thank you all.
Thank you.
So much fun. Best topic.